hello everyone, a warm good morning from myself. I'm Rohit Kumar. So I'm here to talk about AI and GRC, which is basically I'm going to talk about two sides of the same coin. So we are going to little bit have a look at how AI can be used for GRC and how GRC can be used for AI, right? So before going into this, why you should listen for the talk is because I currently work as a GRC risk analyst in Logitech, where my major responsibility kind of comprises on TPRM, third-party resource management, risk management, sorry, and also I also a part of the AI team where I kind of automate the chatbots and help sales team in kind of answering the customer questionnaires. So yeah, let's just dive into the topic. So yeah, what we'll look at today. So before going into this, how many GRC people are there in the hall now? So anyone in the GRC or all are risk and pen testers? Great. So good to have you all in the crowd, and I hope this also gives an intro to others on GRC and what we do in GRC. So first we'll have a look at what is GRC, what we do in that, and also later we'll have a look at how AI can enhance GRC functions, how it will help us automate a couple of tasks that we do. Later, we'll twist the script and look at AI for GRC and GRC for AI. So basically, the first part is the enhancing of GRC with AI, and the second part is basically GRC for AI, and we will discuss about the compliances and the regulations that needs to be put on AI moving forward. Yeah, so let's move on to the next topic. And before jumping in, make sure it's not a seminar, it's not a lecture. We are in a meetup, so make sure you be interactive during the talk and after the talk as well. Yeah. So what is GRC? So the simple abbreviation of GRC is governance, risk and compliance. And what is the governance part of this is that it basically takes care of the policies and the oversights for the organization and make sure that the organization follows all the policies that has been set by itself. The next part would be the risk part of the GRC, where we'll focus on identifying and assessing the risks in the organization as well as any risks to the organization. And we will be having a look at the compliance part, in which we make sure that the organization and the people in the organization follow all the laws and the regulations that has been set by the government. I would like to read out the exact definition that has been given, which is GRC is a structured way to align IT with business goals while making risks and meeting industry standards and government regulations. So in practice, this basically means we set up policies, which is the governance part, and we also do the risk assessment and also risk mitigation, which is the risk part, and we make sure that we follow the government rules and regulations. So mature GRC model is always needed for a company's well growth and also the IT infrastructure. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. So why combine AI and GRC? And I see the better question would be why not? We are in the AI era. So initially it was the automation, automatives, then we entered the internet era, currently we are in the AI era, where we see AI pretty much dominant in every field. You start your day with your mobile phones, where you inevitably use the internet, data and the internet. We also use AI for multiple array of functions. So in the current day, where we have a boom of data, AI is and will be very much useful in understanding and using the data in almost all aspects of an organization. The second important point that McKinsey did a survey and found out that almost 80% of an organization's work and an employee's task could be automated, which is indeed helpful for an organization in cutting costs and saving the trouble. The next would be the industry trends. So if your competitor and if your fellow employees are using AI to make their tasks easier and complete soon, then why not you? Why not use it and just move on to the next one? So that is pretty much on why we should use AI and GRC together. Yes, so moving forward, we'll just have a look at a couple of parts of GRC and how we can integrate AI into those different sections of GRC. So AI in risk monitoring and reporting. So I hope most of the company folks would here know that if you are a big scale company, you would have lots of vendors and you will be kind of assessing the vendors as well as yourself. So if you are a SOC team member or an IT member, you will be having some kind of tools like CrowdStrike and as such to find if there is any anomaly that is happening in the request or any kind of users using your who are a part of your organization. For example, let's say I'm an employee in India, but what if my IP is pinged from China? That is an anomaly. And these kind of anomalies can be detected with AI. Earlier, it used to be like a person used to manually kind of check all the tickets and what is happening, why is this kind of disruption or kind of changes are happening in the users. So all this can be full-time monitored with the use of AI. And again, all the alerts and also the remediations can be directly mitigated with the AI. A metric stream survey found out that 48% of the organizations are actively piloting AI for risk monitoring, thereby kind of streamlining all their works with AI and also reducing the man cost and man labor that has been spent on it. Another important task that AI can be leveraged in risk monitoring is the continuous risk monitoring, in which AI kind of takes in all the information from multiple sources like news feeds, different softwares, public logs, and even I have come across a couple of AI tools which kind of scans the dark web and the dark net to take in feeds and gather data and deduce information from them. So yeah. So AI for complaints automation. So for the people in complaints folks, you may know that complaints is a pretty hard documentation work where you have to go through all the policy documents, review what is happening and what the customer or the vendor or your company has been done, what the different teams are doing, and gather information and get an understanding of that and then implement the compliance and the tasks. So AI can automate all these. You just supply the documents to the AI and it will know what to do once you have given it enough information and trained it perfectly. The next one would be the consistency and speeds. So of course, chatbots in the initial phases were all made of different matrices and heat maps in which they have built upon supplied data. But current with LLM and ML models, the AI chatbots have gotten better, efficient, and also are able to answer the questions in real time and are pretty fast. So again, we have another metric stream survey saying that 43.5% of the GRC teams are actually automating all these tasks with the help of AI. So, yeah. So AI in third-party risk management. So this is where I currently specialize in. So let's say you're working for a big company like Yahoo, Google, or Amazon. You would have hundreds, if not thousands, of vendors. So manually monitoring each of those vendors could be a hard labor task. That is when you leverage AI to see what is happening with the vendor. So if there is a data leak of the vendor in a public log or in a dark net, you use AI to continuously monitor those kind of informations and also to understand what is the impact of those leaks or data or changes in the organization to you. That is one important task. And the other one is automated analysis. So for example, in the TPRM, what we generally do is that we send a vendor a questionnaire for them to answer regarding the business logic or business contract or how they are going to help us in the organization. So usually these questionnaires are actively read by the GRC analyst and they come to a conclusion. But let's say if you just train a model or an LLM based on that, if you just supply the vendor's questionnaire, it would automatically understand what the vendor is supposed to do and also create all the risks that are related to those vendors. That is another important use case. And also the usual ones. We have the real-time threat detection that is again tied back to the risk assessment of the AI's use case. We have another metrics team survey saying that almost 21% of the vendors are using AI for third-party risk management currently. So, yeah. So RegTech case. So this is a concrete example of how AI is helping in the current scenario. RegTech also stands for regulatory tech, which kind of works on KYC and AML. So for those who already know, KYC is know your customer and AML is anti-money laundering. So we are all almost adults, so we have used KYC at least once in our life where you just have to turn your heads and submit one of your government authorized docs to them, and they verify whether you are really who you are saying, right? So from the front end of it, it is easy for us. You just take a photo, submit the doc. But in the back end, it is a tedious process where they have to manually go through each of those docs and verify them. But this can be automated with the AI, and you just build models on verifying those documents. And the next part is anti-money laundering. So initially, for the anti-money laundering part, a person has to sit and go through all the audits and logs of the money transfers to see where the money is going and how it is being sent, all those information. But again, if you train another AI model to understand the money transfer and also the patterns among it, it can easily identify if there is an anomaly being there in the money transfer, and also it can easily detect the anti-money laundering scams and frauds as such. So this kind of real life example shows us how important it is for AI to be put in different use cases that can be helpful for us to stop frauds and also automate the tasks easily. Yeah, so let's just have a quick summary of how AI benefits in GRC. So the first and obvious one would be the efficiency and cost reduction, where almost we have seen that 80% of the tasks can be automated, and then AI can actively, proactively give insights on the tasks that we are doing or any kind of assessments we are performing. And it can also give us a continuous coverage of all the risks and also the compliance changes that are happening in the cybersecurity space as well as happening within different organizations. It can, with AI, we can give us better reporting, ease the task for us, and also we keep it updated with the industry standards. Yeah, and obviously it provides us a competitive edge. So let's have a small chat. So for the GRC people who are here, could you just give us an example for the room on how you are using GRC, AI for your GRC compliance tasks or anything? Anyone? All right, so tough crowd. I'll give an example myself. So in Logitech, we have currently two services. I won't name the services. Let's just call them X and Y. So the X service is basically they do the risk assessment of all the vendors. So basically, let's say a team of mine, the sales team of mine, wants to onboard a vendor. We have the domain, we have the company's name, we have the contact vendor's email address. So first, we'll just put the email's domain in the risk assessment vendor, or let's call it as a SaaS product. So risk assessment SaaS product. So what that SaaS product basically does is that it will just go into the web, it does its own VA, vulnerability assessment, and it gives us a basic score. And it just gives us, this is the A vendor, which is the safest vendor, to D vendor, which is the high risk vendor. So that is one information that we get regarding the risk status of the vendor. And I go to the Y service, in which we have predefined questionnaire set in that vendor, software, and we send it to the vendor's contact email, right? And again, here there are a lot of things to cover, because first we categorize the vendor, whether it is a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 vendor based on the access and the resources that they get from Logitech. So let's say I send them the vendor questionnaire, which usually consists around 50 to 100 questions. Let's say it has 75 questions. A week passes, the vendor replies us with the answers to all the 75 questionnaires. Now I, as a GRC risk analyst, have to sit, look at all the 75 questions that they have answered. I have to map those answers to the context of the vendor, which basically means what the vendor does. Are they a travel agency? Are they providing us some kind of tools in automation? Something. So I have to understand, and I have to make a report on that, and I have to send it to the organization unit. This is all almost manual work. Now, instead of the XY vendor, I go to a vendor, a SaaS product, which automates it pretty much easily. So let's say I have to just give the SaaS product the vendor's domain, the vendor's context, and the vendor's contact email address. Based on the context, it decides the tier value. I don't have to sit and fix the tier value. And then it directly sends the respective questionnaire to that vendor's contact email address. And then after a week, when the vendor sends the answered questionnaire, I don't have to sit and look at it. The SaaS, the A product, understands the context, and it maps all the questions and answers, and it gives me direct risks of those answers. So here my manual labor is cut down hours, and I just have to review the risks that it gave and make sure that it is proper and not like too much or too unnecessary. So yeah, so that is just one use case that we use in Logitech for GRC risk assessment part. So I hope that use case is clear, or anyone has any doubts. Yeah, please. Yeah.
So you told about using of AI for risk assessment. So what would be the risk of using AI in GRC?
We'll have it in the next part. So that's a great question for this next part. So before going on to that, any other questions? Yeah.
You told that we can use AI for a lot of stuff, especially in GRC.
Yeah.
But we also know that AI can hallucinate a lot.
Sorry?
AI can hallucinate, like it can imagine things.
Yeah.
It is not always that human chooses, like there is a difference between human doing things and AI doing things. Of course, it is advantageous, but how to overcome this hallucinating part? You gave some examples of third-party assessments or some document verification, KYC. What if it hallucinates there? Like it's a big problem. So how to overcome?
No, I completely agree, because of the hallucination part is a real kind of defect that AI has that we currently face in the answering of questionnaires and also understanding of questionnaires. I completely agree with it. For currently, on my experience, I would suggest two things. The one is the AI is a tool that we use, but we don't let it dictate the result. So let's say you give the questionnaire, you do some kind of work that you give to the AI. In the initial phase, in the current time, we kind of need to manually assess and see whether the result that the AI gave is accurate, correct, and it didn't deviate off course. That is one thing that we can do. And also the other thing that we can do is rigorous training of LLM models to avoid AI hallucinating. So that two things I would think that that would suffice the hallucination problem. But again, even if we do these two things, I don't think we can completely eradicate hallucination, since it will always be there to some extent in some cases. So we just need to be having an eye out for those cases. Yeah. I hope that answers. Yeah. Sure, sure, yeah.
Okay, the problem you are mentioning is AI having a predefined data set. So whenever you are giving a question, it will assume and give. Right? So there's a big part of emerging of context. Basically, prompt, it will be how SQL database works. You see querying the data, it will be received. That's the mechanism here. In the same way, the LLM have an ability to do that task, but it lacks context. Okay. So, for example, as Rohit mentioned, whenever he's going to send a set of questions to Meetup, LLM should know about what is the vendor, what vendors basically do, what is the infrastructure that he can, what are the policies they have. So this much of information they require to validate whether the questionnaire is answer is correct or not. But unfortunately, those data are confidential of the enterprise. We can't see it very completely. So actually, I am doing research on this area for past 2 months. So what I figured out, there is another concept called MCP. So when you come with MCP, see, it's pretty basic. What we usually do, we have an SAPI, it will give authorization key, they will access it. The same way, you can also give access to the MCP. The MCP having the context of the whole organization. So using that, LLM can process it. But again, there is a problem. Since the LLM accessing all the information about the vendor, what would be the impact? That is the point he is going to get to this. I just want to add.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Your name?
Satish.
Satish. Yeah. Thank you, Satish, for this.
Actually, I have one.
Sure. Please do.
Whenever you're going for vendor risk assessment, right? See, I feel little nowadays we are doing a lot of assessments, but when it comes to the real ground, most of the time I feel 90% are fail with that what we are seeing. For example, whenever you assess vendor risk assessment, what are things or what are the parameters you going to take? Actually, I'm new to this.
Yeah. So you just want insight on what are things that we look at during the vendor assessment, right?
Consider I have a company. I'm going to connect with one more guy. He have a company. I'm going to purchase some SaaS product. Okay. Basically,
Perfect.
what is the vendor risk management? If I am integrating this tool into my organization, what would be the risk if something went wrong?
Okay.
It's financial, security, legal, whatever.
Okay.
At the same time, if you go for research about the vendor, he's a new startup guy.
Yeah.
You don't know much about him, how he going to be run, anything we couldn't able to know that. Suppose if it is in a public trader or a series venture capital, something that we can able to know that. So I just want to know what are the parameters it will be helpful to assess that vendor.
Okay. So coming to the, so this is a little off topic, but I think this would be a great insight for all who are new to GRC. So I'll come to that. So GRC risk assessment or vendor risk assessment part, we would technically divide it into two parts. One is the technical, the other is the contextual part. The technical part is basically you put the vendor's domain through a vulnerability scanner. You find out how good their infrastructure is, how good their SaaS product security, security measures, and all those stuff, all the tech part as a pen tester that you would do. So that is the one thing that you do in the tech part. The other part is the actual contextual part. Even in the contextual part, there are subjective questions and there are actual all-time constant questions. For example, if the vendor has a security certification, are they ISO certified? Do they have a SOC 2 Type 2 report? Those are questions like that. Are do they use PII? For example, let's say the vendor is a SaaS vendor, but they are a travel SaaS vendor who currently books tickets for you. So in that case, they may require your address, your hotel stay, your passport, your visa, those kind of informations. So those are all PII information, which is personal identifiable information. Yeah. Those informations are highly risky information to give out outside an organization. So if a vendor are of such kind, usually we would just directly put them into high risk vendor. That is one thing you need to consider. And again, a couple of compliance questions would be like, do they have HR policies? Do they have data retention policies? Do they have data integration policies? Or how are they integrating their SaaS solution into your company? These kind of questions are context or constant questions, which irrespective of the vendor, we ask to all of them. The next part of where I said the subjective questions, you just inquire about what they do. For example, the travel company. The context is they are travel people, they book tickets, but how are they booking tickets? Through which platform? Through what resources or what API calls are they retrieving information from your organization to their systems? Are they just viewing your information or are they downloading your information? These kind of questions, I think you kind of ask based on the context. So usually how we would do is that we do the tech part, we just supply the domain to the SaaS, some VA SaaS who does the vulnerability assessment. We understand the context, we send the questionnaire. Once we get the response to those questionnaires, we mandatorily have a meet with the vendor to understand what process, what is happening, what functions are they performing and how they are performing. So these kind of would be the steps to how go about a general VA assessment. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah, cool. So anyone else or yeah, I think we can move forward. Yeah. So let's now flip the script. Initially we saw AI for GRC, but now let's say GRC for AI. And why? Because AI is not just a tool, it is also a risk. The one good risk that pointed out was the hallucination, which is the risk part of the AI. So here a couple of risks may come. So one thing would be that the AI is not even properly trained. It was trained on a biased data, then the responses would be obviously biased. And again, there is also unpredictable behavior like hallucination of AI and also AI not being properly configured. So these kind of innate natures of AI puts it at risk. That's why we need compliance GRC for AI as well. The other thing would be that with the rise of AI, the regulatory focus on AI is also increasing. We all know that in the recent days, European Union are big on the governance for AI. Again, the data liability. IBM reports that only 29% of enterprises the data is ready for Gen AI. That is almost like 71% of the data is not yet ready for AI to be understood. That could be because of the importance of the data or because of the volatile nature of the data. And again, we need to, there was one good quote by the Attorney General Liza Monaco, noted that the attorneys of the US who are kind of doing compliance check for all the companies and industries, they are identifying AI as a risk. And they are urging for all the industries to follow the compliance for AIs as well. Yeah, so let's have a look at AI specific risks to govern. The first thing, as I mentioned earlier, is the bias and fairness of the data. So AI loves data, we all know that. So AI is as good as the data is, but what if the data is not good? What if the data is inclined towards a specific nature of information or a specific side of a thought? So then the AI could also be biased. That is one major risk that we concern. And since AI wants data, we need to be careful about what kind of data we put into AI. So that is the data privacy part. And we know about the security threats. So you just put some kind of prompt poisoning or prompt injection to that is also possible to retrieve sensitive data from AI, which the AI is not supposed to share. And the other one is operational risk, where if the AI is not properly configured, it can totally disrupt your company's automation that you have set up based on AI. That is one more thing. And compliance violation, so basically the AI can kind of give information and not properly work in a way that is according to the compliance of the industry. And let's say, coming to the transparency and explainability part, when AI does something, we kind of need a reason for why it did it. For example, let's say I've integrated AI into the loan processing in a bank. And if the AI is denying the loan for someone, we kind of need reasoning for that. So that kind of transparency can be hardly expected because we kind of have a little low explaining on how AI works, and it's basically a black box. And also a survey found out that 93% of organizations know that they kind of acknowledge that Gen AI risks are real and they are existing, but we found out that only 9% of those organizations are prepared to address those risks. So regulation landscape. So in the current times, regulations are kind of heating up. The EU Act kind of implemented in in the year 2024, where they kind of urging us to put mandatory compliances on AI. They're also kind of tiering AI risks. For example, let's say I'm using biometrics and confidential KYC data on AI. The EU is classifying those kind of highly confidential as tier 1 risks, and they're asking us to put mitigations on those kind of risks based on each tiers. And US is also putting those kind of regulations, and we also have a Joe Biden order, urging on all the federal states to put NIST frameworks and all those regulations upon AI. And additionally, we also have the AI regulations drafts coming up in China and India as well. And yeah, that is pretty much about it. So yes, with the rise of AI, we also have the rise of AI frameworks. So currently, the GRC folks would be familiar with the NIST frameworks. So we also have a NIST framework for AI risk management. So RMF is basically risk management framework that has been coming up with basic 4 functionalities of governing, mapping, and measuring and managing trustworthy AIs. And the next one is the ISO 42001, which is basically the certifiable certification that you can do for AI. And the next one is IEEE 7000 series, which basically focuses on the ethics part of AI. And we have OECD AI principles and also company controls, which you can learn and also implement in your organizations. So let's say as an organization, personally from my experience, I would highly recommend not to stick with one principle, but also incorporate a hybrid of frameworks. And the one that I found useful was the ISO 42001 and NIST RMF framework for AI implementations. So yeah, with new things comes up new challenges, right? So with AI, the major challenge would be about AI is very new, but we are using legacy platforms in our systems. So that is the connection gap between AI and the legacy platforms due to lack of APIs and all the automation processes. And the other one is the skill gap, where we don't have enough people who are well versed in AI as well as GRC. That is one thing that all you can address, just educate yourself on all those things. The other thing is the data quality. As we previously discussed, AI is as good as the data is. So we need to come up with good data that is accurate and not biased. The other thing is the regulatory uncertainty. With the rise of AI itself is evolving each day, and the regulatory boards are a little confused on what to do with these things that are coming up each day. And the security of AI. So the security of AI kind of address the AI vulnerability parts, that are LLM vulnerabilities and all those things. That is also a key factor in deciding the GRC for AI. The other thing is the ethics and bias, where the AI outputs with inclusion goals and also confused results, and the organizational resistance. So this kind of organizational resistance comes under the change management thing, where the organizations are pretty little hesitant to onboard AI and also incorporate their information into AI. So these are the key challenges, and you can address them in your companies if you see anything that is of importance. Let's have a look at the best practices. So before incorporating AI, it is always good to have a pretty solid purpose on how you are going to incorporate AI, what you are going to do with AI, what you are going to automate with it. That kind of gives you an objective on what to move forward. The next thing would be maintain oversight. As the question asked, it's we are using AI, we are not depending on we are depending on AI, but we are not we are not letting AI dictate the results. So even if we use AI as tools, analyze the results and also understand whether it is serving the need. The other thing is the prioritize data governance, where you kind of understand what are the data that required to be going into the AI and not into AI. So with that, you invest in skills, you kind of keep updated with the knowledge, you learn frameworks, you learn ISO certs to keep yourself updated with the ever changing field, and then embed ethics early. So most companies, what they do is that they build the systems and with a clear objective, but they don't build about the ethics of those, how the system should perform and how the AI should work. So instead of incorporating them after everything is built, it is advised to go early in the start. And then cross-functional collaborations. So this basically entices where you just don't work as a 2-member or a 3-member team, but you involve IT, you involve all the groups that are related to AI and also security, so that you have a mixed overview of what the AI can perform and what could be done. Next, you start small and then you scale up. That would be the best way to go about it. And the other best practice would be document your process so that you can know what progress you have made. And finally, it's continuous learning. AI is also evolving, so we must keep ourselves updated to keep ahead of it. So yeah, conclusions. AI is a game changer for GRC. It automates, it helps us, and not only for GRC, basically for every field it helps us. But GRC is also essential for AI, so that we govern AI, that it ensures fairness, unbiased results as such. And strategic imperative, so that in the current era, as it is being said, is AI is no longer optional but also a strategic imperative. So the action items would be like, as I've said in the best practice, start small, collaborate, keep yourself updated and learn as much as possible regarding AI. So yeah, I think that's it from me. I have put in all the resources, and additionally I have put in a couple of cybersecurity news blogs, GRC blogs, AI blogs, and also newsletters in the first link. And the second link is just shameless LinkedIn publicity for myself. So if you want to connect, we can talk more. Yeah. Any questions from anyone?
And any questions? Anyone?
So, it was a good presentation. Thank you for that. So, you are from Gajiri, correct?
Yeah.
So, you guys are applying for software GDPR?
We currently have ISO cert. We are in the, I think the first one was over a couple of years back. We're in the second audit of that. SOC 2, I'm not sure.
Okay. So, you are talking about the
GRC in the tools that we use, or you're talking about the AI GRC which is used in Logitech. What is the difference that you wanted to communicate?
So the first part of the presentation where we kind of look for AI in GRC, that part we currently look at the tools. The second part of GRC for AI, we look in Logitech as well.
Understood.
Yeah.
So now the question is, so I understand this aspect of where you're using AI, but there are tools like Scrud, Vanta and Tracker. There are multiple tools which you manage GRC. So are you guys also worried about, or have you worked on something like that, similar to what you have done right now?
So,
Related to AI integration.
so I guess the tools here mentioned, they don't have an integrated AI into them itself.
Currently they have.
Yeah. So okay, but in Logitech we don't have any experience with those tools, so I can't speak for them. Yeah.
So the reason why I asked this is because instead of, more than, of course this is valuable, more than that, having a personal experience on what you have worked out.
Yeah.
Add more value.
Speaking frankly, we are currently having a tool called as UpGuard that most of us GRC people would be familiar. UpGuard, UpGuard. So they are a TPRM. Where they kind of does both the things I said. They risk assess like a vulnerability assessment platform, and they also send out questionnaires. So they have the darknet scanning with AI, and they also have the TPRM AI analysis of the questionnaires. So let's say I send a questionnaire from UpGuard to the vendor. They fill in the questionnaire, and UpGuard's AI, they analyze the questionnaire and the answers that they have done. So and they directly deduce the risks based on those questions.
Okay, so the SOC 2 or whatever.
Yeah, SOC 2 type 2. So let's say the vendor has submitted SOC 2 type 2 or ISO cert or their privacy policies and security policies as evidence in the questionnaire. The AI will go into those SOC 2 type 2 controls list. It understands what controls are there, and it kind of changes the score of the vendor.
So this framework RMF and
ISO 42000.
You guys have implemented that for this particular tool as well?
So the NIST RMF and the ISO 42000, that is something you integrate into the organization. Yeah.
So
We are currently doing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks, Rohit.
Sure.
We can connect.
Sure thing. Yeah. Anyone else? So I guess that's it from me then. Thank you. Have a good day.